Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Now, let's take a look at the turn of events from when this happened in January to now. Take us through the timeline and exactly what happened.
Well, it's fascinating because in the statement that he provided to the police for blackmail and extortion charges, Vavis annexed a lot of documents of emails and the grievances, etc., sort of sketching out the broad timeline. She emailed him on the 2nd of July, apologizing for the fact that her husband, through his own will, had decided to tell his wife about what had happened, and sort of urging him to try and admit that you're wrong, and that this wasn't consensual, and I had articulated a lot of unhappiness, etc. Then on the 3rd of July, there's a document from a letter of demand, as it were, from her and her husband to Vavi and his wife, saying that they want 215,000 Rand a year for the next 5 years, plus medical costs because of an injury she sustained to her back. And she says that she wants the costs of relocation. And she says that it's 5 years because you caused huge levels of trauma. She also discloses in the letter before that she has previously been a victim of rape, and therefore this entire incident has opened a lot of wounds. Vavi's lawyers then get involved, and a few days later send them back a letter saying, you must understand that this is extortion, and if you persist with these demands, we will go to the police station, which is, of course, what happened on Thursday. In the interim, she did not go to work at Cosatu for about 2 weeks, so much so, and the documents show this, that the Cosatu, Human Resources Department was contacting her and saying, why are you not here? And she was facing disciplinary action for being absent from work. And it was that stage, on the 15th of July, that she then makes this formal grievance at Cosatu and says, Zwelinzima Vavi has raped me.
Let's talk about these documents. How crucial are these documents for his case? And will it be simply a case of, well, it's extortion?
Well, I think what the argument would be, obviously the police and the eNCA have to look at these documents, but what's a big problem for her is this letter of demand, saying that, I've been caused all this trauma. And at the end she says, if you accede to my demands, I solemnly swear that I will not say anything further about this matter. And then she says at the end, just note that this is not blackmail. This is, the result of negotiations between the parties. But on the face of it, it very much is perceived as an attempt at extortion, and certainly the reaction from Vavi's lawyers has been that of people who feel that there's a deliberate attempt at extortion going on. She of course has to go to the police and make an explanation, but it is very problematic for her, that email. And also, as we understand it, there are telephonic messages that were left and SMSs that may also indicate that she's making these demands for cash in exchange for her silence, which will be problematic for her.
Now, there could be a number of reasons why she waited from January to, come out with this for now. What could some of those reasons be? Was she maybe afraid? What do we actually know about this 26-year-old?
Well, she states in the documents that she's afraid to go to work and she fears that he will do this to her again. We know that she is married, that she has, her own children. We know that her financial circumstances are not very good at all, because in the grievance that she gives to Cosatu, she explicitly references the fact that her husband, she's the only person who's been able to pay rent because her husband has had to pay for the burials of his parents and another sibling. So she explicitly puts it out there that, I can't leave my job because of this money issue. But the big question really is, why wait such a long period of time before before bringing this grievance across? And also the fact that she didn't go to the police straight away. All those kind of factors will weigh against her, particularly when we have a judicial environment which is difficult for alleged, sexual assault accusers. She already is in a situation where she faces very tough questions about the level of action that she took, and also this very obvious attempt to get money from Zwelinzima Vavi in exchange for her silence.
How easy or difficult will it be for her to prove that this was actually a rape?
Well, after the fact, it's quite problematic. Of course, in the normal course of events, when a woman suffers from sexual assault or sexual violence, the immediate, there's big questions. First of all, who do you report? It's called the first report of the rape, and it's a few moments after you've got away from the scene and you go to a sister or a mother or whoever and say, this is what happened to me. We know that that doesn't appear to have happened in this particular instance. There's obviously no medical evidence. We know from the correspondence between the two, and certainly SMS exchanges between the two, that there was no protection involved in the sexual encounter. But at this point, you know, it really becomes who is the more believable person. And in a court of law, she hasn't laid a charge. But if he persists with extortion and blackmail claims against her, she may well decide that she wants to go the route and lay a criminal charge against him. And in this kind of scenario, so long after the fact, in the absence of very clear and categoric medical evidence, it will really come down to who is the most believable.
Now, we heard from Zwelinzima Vavi a short while ago. He released a statement. Have we spoken to the alleged victim?
Well, we have spoken to her. She's told us that she's on the way to a meeting with someone who she says will assist her in deciding what she needs to do now in terms of speaking out, or, you know, what her next step should be. It's not beyond the bounds of possibility that she does, in the situation where she's now facing criminal charges, decide to lay a charge against Zwelinzima Vavi, in which case this entire situation then escalates. But at this point, she says that she feels the coverage has been very one-sided, that people are taking Zwelinzima Vavi's side against her, and that the situation is far less black and white as people would seem to believe it. So certainly a lot of distress coming from her side.
Just finally, Karyn, will he be able to come out of this?
I think it's very much going to depend how these various legal processes continue. I mean, if he gets involved in a high-profile, sensational blackmail and extortion case, if she lays counter charges against him of rape, certainly it's going to divert attention away from his political career. It's going to take his time and attention away from his political career. But we have had scenarios very famously with our current president of high-profile politicians going on trial for these kind of offences and coming out the other side unscathed. And certainly, if she does choose to persist with a rape charge, given what we know now, it would be very difficult for her to get him convicted. I think it's just really going to be about how he deals with this scandal, how he deals with the crisis. And to his credit, he has been very open and honest about what's happened.
News that moves. eNCA.com.